Hi all, welcome to my channel again. So today we are going to discuss about the Docker interview questions part 2. Part 1 I have already explained in the previous session. Please go and watch that video. So if you want to check out this blog, you can check that from this link which I will be mentioning in the description box. From there you can access and check this blog. So in this session, I'm going to discuss about the second part of the Docker interview questions. So this is the continuation. Here also, I will be going to explain the interview questions which are going to get asked in the interviews. So please watch until the end and let's start this. So what is Docker? So the difference between the Docker versus hypervisor. So hypervisor Docker are used for the same purpose, but how hypervisor is created is different from the Docker. How hypervisor works is different from the how Docker. So here the software that helps in the creation of virtual machines where a virtual platform is provided to the operating systems to manage and execute the virtual machines is called a hypervisor. Normally, virtual machines are created in order to execute with a virtual platform provided to the operating systems to manage and execute. So this is called a hypervisor. And what is a Docker is I have already explained. It is a service for virtualization used in OS where software is delivered in containers with software libraries and its configuration files. So how Docker is developed is by using the Go language. Um, if they ask what is a Docker and what is a hypervisor, you can tell this difference. And what second question is what are the advantages and disadvantages of using the Docker? Here I have listed out the some of the advantages and disadvantages. You can check this by going through this blog briefly. Here I will be explaining like the main points. You can go and check this briefly by checking out this link from the description box. So let's discuss this. Some of the advantages are Dockers are extremely portable because it can be run on any platform, and Docker containers have a smaller footprint than typical virtual machines, allowing for faster deployment times and lower infrastructure costs. So, compared to the virtual machines, Docker containers are smaller, have smaller footprint, so that will allow us for faster deployment and also lower infrastructure cost. So Docker adds layers of security by separating apps. So what it will do, it will prevent the security breaches. So in terms of that also Docker has an advantage. Docker delivers consistency by guaranteeing that programs execute on consistent environment across various servers. And for consistency also Docker has an advantage. Docker makes it easier for developers to share their work environment and work together on projects. So that is also an advantage for Docker. And there are some disadvantages also. So Docker can increase complexity because of the tools and skills for maintaining containers. And the second disadvantage is that while Docker provides a solution for dependency management, it also creates extra issues because of maintaining these dependencies across multiple containers and environments. So not only giving a solution for dependency management, it also creates because of maintaining these dependencies across containers and environment. So that is also a disadvantages we can say. And the next one is Docker may cause compatibility difficulties with current programs. And if you want to check out this very briefly, you can check this from this blog. I'm just explaining the main points. And the next is what is a Docker namespace. So some of the namespace types are process ID, mount, IPC, user, network. So basically what is a namespace is namespace you of various kinds to provide the isolation that containers need to remain portable and different from affecting the remainder of the host system. So each aspect of a container runs in a namespace, separate namespace, and its access is limited to that namespace. So next is the Docker registry. You might have heard so many times about the Docker registry. It is the one of the main part which will store the images. Once the image is built, it will be stored in the registry, and whenever we want, wherever we want, we can pull that image from the Docker registry, and then we can deploy onto that specific environment. And next is what is an entry point. Entry point is nothing but when a Docker file gets executed, the entry point command will get executed. So when a container is lost, this entry point command will get executed from the Docker file. Wherever it declares, it will first execute the entry point command. Next is how to implement CI/CD in Docker. So CI/CD means nothing but a continuous integration, continuous deployment in Docker. So Docker allows us to integrate that with the GitHub, and also to integrate with tools like Jenkins, which will help us to make this process very easier. So first the developers will submit the code into the GitHub. From there the Jenkins fills the code, and then it will build a Docker image that will then again stored in the Hubber registry. So after storing from wherever environment we want, like there will be environments like QA for testing and production and development. So in these environments, wherever we want, we will go to that environment and we will pull that Docker image from the Hubber registry. Then we will deploy that into the specific environment. So basically this is the process which follows, and this is how a CI/CD works in Docker. So all of this process can be automated using the CI/CD. So that is how we implement CI/CD in Docker. So will data on container be lost when the Docker container exists? So this I have already explained. If the container has a volume, then the data will not be lost. If the container doesn't have a volume, then the data will be lost along with the container. So the container should get tagged to the volume if data should not get missed or lost. So Docker volumes are widely useful tool ensuring data persistence, because the data will be continue to exist while working in containers. So even if a volume is attached to a container and the container is no more and the volume is continue to exist, so the data will also be continue to exist even if the container is not there. So the data doesn't persist when the container no longer exists. And a container's writable layer is tightly coupled on the host machine where the container is running, so the data cannot be easily movable somewhere else. So we cannot move easily. So Docker has two options for containers to store files. The host machine, so that the files are persisted even after the container stops. So volume are stored in a part of the host file system which is managed by the and the bind mounts may be stored anywhere on the host system. So these two are the things which we can include in case if we don't want to lose the data. What is a Docker Swarm? It is an orchestration tool similar to the Kubernetes. So it has been configured to join together in a cluster. So the activities of the cluster are controlled by Swarm Manager, and machines that have joined the cluster are referred as the nodes. So that is what a Docker swarm is. And next is the Docker, some of the Docker commands, like for viewing running containers, we use the Docker ps-e, which will list all the running containers inside the machine. And next is command to run the container under a specific name. So docker run is the command to run the container under a specific name. And command to export a docker, so docker export container name and the path of the file dot tar. So this will export a docker. And next is command to import an already existing docker image. So docker import the Part2 docker image and the image name. So the next is the commands to delete a container. This will stop the container and this will remove the stopped container. Next is to command to remove all stopped containers, unused networks, build caches. Here we are removing one by one. Instead of that, we can remove all the containers, stopped containers, unused networks, build caches, and dangling images. Everything we can remove in a single command, that is docker system pro. So this will remove everything at once. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching my video until the end. If you want to go through this, you can check this link from the description box so that you can briefly go one by one question. And if you watch my previous videos, then you will get a better preview of what is what. So thanks for watching.